Another day, another story. Yuri, Pushavoditsa. Yuri is a widower who lives alone in a picturesque place near the woods on the northwest outskirts of Kiev. Everything in the house is made by his hands. There is furniture on the veranda that he made himself. After the Russian offensive, not a single house in the area was left untouched. All the buildings were damaged. If the walls and roof survived, the owners considered themselves lucky. At the beginning of March, a neighbor said, "Come over. My mother-in-law made soup. Let's eat." A heavy shelling began. Yuri was getting ready to evacuate. He had gold, money, and documents on his desk. As he headed toward a neighbor at the end of the street, a short Russian soldier with a white cloth on his arm came out of the woods and shouted, "Hands up." Yuri raised his hands, then was ordered to lie on the ground. He had sciatica, so he moved very slowly. Yuri heard gunshots. The bullets hit Yuri in the arm, heel, and hip. By some miracle, no vital organs were hit. Sergei, a neighbor, was standing in the yard of his house. Yuri shouted, "Sayosha, they got me." The soldier heard this and called his own, "There's the second one. There's the second one. Get to work." And then the machine gun shot again. Sergei shouted, "Ivanovich, I can't get out of the yard. Crawl to me." Under fire, Yuri crawled to the corner of the fence, where someone grabbed him by the hood and dragged him inside. Then he lost consciousness. He woke up inside the house and saw his neighbor tearing a sheet into bandages. The hole in his arm was huge. There was an open wound on his heel. As Sergei and his mother-in-law were treating the wounds, Russian soldiers entered the house shouting, "Hands up." Everyone raised their hands. The Russians asked, "Are there Ukrainian soldiers here?" They brought everyone to their knees. The Russians searched the house and forbade them to go outside. "We'll check," they said, but they never returned. For a week Yuri lay in bed. He hardly ate anything. There was no internet or phone service. Artillery, mortar shells, Uragan MLRS shells, and cluster bombs flew overhead. Sergei made crutches out of planks for Yuri so that he could move around. Because of the lack of antibiotics, Yuri's wounds were festering, and we had to wash them with chamomile and other neems. One day a group of Russian soldiers came into Sergei's yard. He counted 32 of them. They were in good uniform, each armed with a grenade launcher. 3 of them entered the house and noticed a bottle of liquor in the hallway. "What is that?" "Liquor. Can I try it?" they asked. "Even if I don't allow it, you can drink it anyway," Yuri replied. The soldiers drank a couple of glasses. "Oh, good," they said. The third glass was raised to the dead comrades. 2 of them left, and the older one came up to Yuri and said, "Old man, I'm sorry. It's not us that's at war. It was our government that started this war." Yuri replied, "But here you are, not the government." The Russian replied, "We're following orders," turned around and left. If they had known the soldiers were coming, they would have put poison in the alcohol, Yuri says. In the middle of March the cold came back. It was as low as -10 degrees Celsius. There was no electricity. People sat at home in their outerwear. Heavy shelling continued. There was nowhere to hide. When Sergei went out to the bathroom in the yard, a shell exploded in front of him. Shrapnel hit his arm and groin. There were 2 wounded in the house. Sergei was getting worse. His mother-in-law was taking care of him. Yuri prayed, "Mother of God, there are no hopeless situations. Take us out of here, for there is always a way out." On March 23, the Ukrainian military drove the Russians out. Several Ukrainian soldiers approached Sergei's house. The soldiers said that they had to evacuate quickly. When the Ukrainian soldiers saw Yuri on homemade crutches, they told him, "No, grandfather. No." They emptied the cart, in which they collected anti-tank mines, put Yuri in it and took him to the evacuation bus. The bus drove slowly through the woods, then at full speed down the highway to the hospital. Sergei underwent surgery. Yuri returned to the village. Everywhere there were traces of the Russian military. All the valuables and money, even the portrait of Yuri's late wife, were gone. He is now rebuilding his house. Roses are growing through the rubble. Life goes on. The ligament in one hand still hurts, but he can work with an axe and a hammer. The main thing, he says, is to have some gorilka, which he drinks to victory. Thanks for watching.